The man participates in the novice hunter selection competition, but it shocked all the examiners present because he unexpectedly pulled out two handguns as one's own weapon. Need to know, firearms are quite rare among hunters. Every single bullet. Everyone needs to use their own magic to guide the shooting. Only the top genius hunter, Ethan, is weapons that can only be used. However, I am using two at once and completed accurate shooting. This makes my already poor written test scores even worse. Misunderstood as cheating by the female instructor. It turns out that I was the strongest combat power in the Hunters Alliance. Shine in this era where monsters are appearing one after another. However, I didn't even have half a year to enjoy the limelight. My strength has plummeted. Later, due to the exposure of the scandal, I disappear from the public eye. Even my own agent advised me to quit the team, engage in other industries, and as for the reason why, all because of the flowers blooming from one's own skills. It is something that can convert all attributes, proportional growth of skills. But once this skill is activated, your own level will be permanently locked, unable to improve. It was indeed because my agent found me when I was 18, discovered one's talent too early, leading to the current stagnation in strength. If I could activate this skill a little later, maybe I wouldn't be so down and out. After angrily scolding the agent, I angrily stormed out the door. After all, things have come to this point. Hitting him won't do any good. Just as I was thinking about how to develop in the future, a large truck is coming straight towards me. Only heard the surrounding noise gradually becoming blurred. I died at my most destitute moment. Clearly, I used to work so hard, but due to the wrong choice made at 18 years old, and led to the current situation, I, who I am unwilling to accept, really want to start over again, but completely didn't notice that the ring on his hand was. The light is on at this moment. A sound of successful detection came to my ear. I suddenly stood up to take a look, but found? I actually returned to the day of detecting supernatural abilities. After learning this news at the beginning, I myself ... extremely happy. But Mom had a disappointed expression on her face because she doesn't want me to become a hunter. This is like a sports player. Few people can stand out, but rather hope. One can focus their energy on studying, can serve as a legendary hunter who returns to the past. Myself, how could I give up this hard-won opportunity? That night, I started checking my skills. Original detection agency can only detect whether the other party has awakened or not, but unable to know what special ability the detector has awakened. But I am different, because I have the all-seeing eye that can peek into everything. In this life, nothing is beyond my expectations. The flower that awakened itself is blooming. This skill, I decisively chose to shut it down in order to grow faster in the future. Myself must adapt to this young body as soon as possible. But just at this moment, the sound of my parents arguing came from outside the house. They are debating whether I should go to study or become a hunter. A dispute occurred over an issue. My father expressed approval of me becoming a hunter and suggested that you can spend a year to see the results. But the mother thinks this age is exactly the time to catch up with peers. If the pursuit of dreams is fruitless, we'll waste a lot of time. For this, I forcefully pushed open the door and said, I don't need a year. I only need 6 months. If I don't show results after 6 months, then I will forever give up on becoming a hunter. However, just the next day, but I have suffered a huge crisis because I actually forgot that this body of mine is not yet of age. About the matter within the Hunter Club, it is prohibited for minors to enter alone, unless there is accompanied by guardian, or in the case of obtaining the guardian's signature. Just when I was at my wit's end, a big hand appeared behind him, slapped me once. I turned my head to look. Surprisingly found out that the other party is a prop. In his previous life, he consistently ranked in the top 3 at the first level, although not the strongest in strength, but also not without fame. Due to the reason of reincarnation, I can only pretend not to know him. This dealt a heavy blow to Dao Jun. No matter what, I guess I'm also somewhat famous in the class next door. It's not like I've never heard of it. After a brief exchange of pleasantries, Daojun also found out the situation where I can't get into the club and enthusiastically expressed that she can provide help because he is already a member of this club. You can freely enter and exit the club. The premise is, I must agree to let Daojun watch the training from the sidelines. This kind of trivial matter. Of course, I readily agreed. After receiving confirmation from the receptionist, the two of us also arrived at the club's training ground. Before the training begins, I repeatedly emphasize that I am just here to test skills, exercise a bit. There probably isn't anything particularly exciting. Daojun still insists on watching from the sidelines and spoke in the tone of an elder. Can help oneself train. Of course, I disdain to even consider this. No matter what, the age of my past self has already exceeded. It should be me who is called the senior. Then I began training. What sets me apart from others is, I chose the crew's clone as one's own training dummy. The prop on the side quickly asked Dao Changshan, did you choose the wrong option? If you want to train, we should choose an ordinary dummy instead of crew's clones, this indestructible thing. But I replied, the dummy used for training should be sturdy, isn't it? Immediately after, I engaged in a battle with the clone. If the previous life, strength, still able to easily penetrate this dummy's defense. However, currently attributes and skills have not yet been developed. So the only way to observe his weaknesses is through the omnipotent eye. In discovering the weakness of the dummy, it is the joint area where the armor is connected. I quickly reacted and broke them one by one. In the end, the crew's clone was successfully defeated. The props seeing this scene were very curious. I've been in the club for so long. No one has ever seen a crew's clone being hurt. However, I can easily defeat it. This made the props watching the battle on the sidelines eager to try. Just after I left, he then began to mimic my offensive style, fight with the cruise ship clone. What he never expected was, even if he adjusts the difficulty to the lowest level, still unable to cause a single scratch to the clone. Until the seniors from the same club heard the sound and came, laughing at. Only a fool would treat a cruise ship clone as a dummy. This thing was designed to be unbeatable from the start. Just after I parted ways with Daojun, then received an invitation to have dinner with Daojun. And his purpose for inviting me to dinner this time is, then I would like to ask about the matter of cruise ship clones. Mingming tried to use the same attack as Changshan, but it did not cause any harm to the clone. Could it be that the configuration I chose has a problem? However, I was just about to answer his question. The voice of Senior Daojun appeared behind me. Every line is full of mockery towards Daojun. Why would anyone want to sabotage a cruise ship clone? Does he have the strength of a gorilla but nowhere to use it? He also said his friend achieved it. I really should ask his friend. Can the forehead emit lasers? Hearing this, I probably also know who he is talking about. Picked up the cup and smashed it hard on the table, answering Chen's questions on the one hand. While counterattacking, he said you don't need to change the cruise ship clone. Any configuration requires mastering some skills, but you can just think of this point. Already better than some bastards who claim it's impossible. Much stronger. The man who heard this was very angry. Immediately came to the two people's table. Want to ask for an explanation and use their identity as an awakened one as a threat. I want to apologize for what happened just now, but I responded with my fist. While beating him down, he also waved his hand to signal him to scram. How can a man with such strong self-esteem bear such humiliation? The furious punch was swung towards me, but this level of attack can't harm me. Is this the strength of the awakened one? I'm so scared. After blocking the opponent's attack, I struck the man's face with a backhand. However, this action also thoroughly infuriated him. I suddenly realized a powerful force began to surround him, and one's own line of sight. All have issued dangerous warnings about it. Just a moment. A huge explosion occurred underfoot. After escaping, I realized the other party turns out to be an awakened one of the gravity system, but there are still civilians around him who have not been evacuated. Is he really going to do this? I haven't come back to my senses yet. He used the gravity skill again. And this behavior also makes me very angry. Just as I was thinking about how to shorten the distance, the plate under the foot caught my attention. Then I picked up the plate and threw it at the man. Although he can manipulate gravity to block this attack, but if the quantity exceeds his manageable range, I saw myself repeatedly throwing the plate at him. The man began to appear helpless. After being hit by the last plate, I opened my eyes only to find that I had disappeared from sight. By the time he finds me again, my fist had already hit the stomach hard. What followed was a one-sided beating. I can't give him any chance to catch his breath. However, when I was about to leave after knocking the man unconscious, but the arriving police blocked the way. For this, I can only fake myself as a victim and help the man up. Wake him up with cold water. Looking at myself fainting on the ground, the man looks completely confused, but the suppressed anger in the heart, it still prompted him to swing his fist at me. However, this act was caught by the arriving police. At this moment, he finally understood. All of this, it's just a show that Changshan put on for the police. Later, he was taken to the police station, but he did not tell the truth to the police because he doesn't want to be thought of by others. Can't even beat a newbie. The day after tomorrow, I continued to train with Daojun inside the club, but I found out, due to yesterday's behavior, Li too. The blooming flower awakened a new skill in me. That is every time before I attack. Shout out the attack moves or attack positions. You can get a power boost before hitting the target. And this behavior does not need to be consistent. That is to say, the effect of this power boost is basically like getting something for free. Return home in the evening. I started filling it out. Application form for the Hunter Program Selection Contest. As a nationwide hunter recruitment program, just need to show highlights in it, even if not the first place, can also gain considerable fame. But due to the poor public image of oneself in the previous life, this led to difficulties in the second round of the written test. I simply summed this up with a few strokes of the pen. Anyway, there will be practical exercises later. Can make up for one's own. Then I arrived at the third stage of the selection. I clicked here on the computer screen as requested. The result was instantly transported into a magic cube. The awakened ones can imagine through this. Create your own weapon. And the requirement to pass is within the specified 3 minutes. Knock down the dummy in combination with all the above situations. I immediately conjured up to handguns as weapons and cooperate with their own omnipotent eye. Find the weak point and shoot. Making the level that could originally stump many hunters becomes simpler than breathing. At this time, the female examiner sitting in the observation room couldn't stand it anymore, loudly condemning this as cheating behavior. As long as there is a gun, anyone can pass the test. And her written test answers were also quite outrageous, actually claiming that their life is smooth sailing. Never encountered a challenge. How could someone like this possibly be allowed to pass? However, the other two examiners do not think so, because of the way to use a gun. Strictly speaking, it is harder than other weapons. He must create bullets that match with it, and assist shooting with magic power. Most people would choose to use cold weapons. The only exception is a genius like Ethan. Moreover, if he really cheated, also unable to pass the subsequent rounds of tests, because a gun can only be used as a weapon for target shooting. For moving monsters, it is even harder to hit. The magic power it consumes will also dramatically increase. Finally, under the consultation of the 3 people, I have decided to accept my exam results this time. And I, who was selected through auditions, will also go to the stadium soon. Participate in the second Hunter Program test. The man participates in the Battle Royale competition. The first thing to do, he ran towards the outside of the circle without looking back. The examiners all looked surprised when they saw this scene. Does it mean to say, is this guy preparing to quit before he even starts? Little did they know, I want to get first place in the competition. Breaking out of the circle is the most critical, because here, hiding an ancient secret that no one knows about. And can you bring me the winning strategy for this battle royale? Just a short while ago, I was invited to participate in this new event, Show Hunter Program. When I arrived at the show site, but found many familiar faces from the previous life. Even the previously beaten senior Daojun is included. And as the first prize of this competition, that is 500 million Korean won. Weapons crafted by Moer's workshop. Not only that, invited guests. The examiners are also big figures in the hunter world. They are respectively Arako, who won the National League Championship 3 times. Lee Mingxi, the runner-up of the World Professional Hunter League. There are also outstanding figures in each country's national team, such as Shuhei. Even if it was in the last life, myself at the peak period, only then will your strength be on par with theirs. But if this life, if I can maximize the blooming flowers, the result is different. Then Araya began to explain the content of the competition in this program. That is to be in a virtual giant tower. Play Battle Royale game. They want to be among the 100 hunters on the scene. Compete for the 20 survivors. After entering the virtual giant tower, I just realized, isn't this exactly the last life? Did I fail my final exam? In order to obtain useful information, I quickly recalled and successfully found it. Methods to potentially become first place. Inside the viewing room on the other side, Arajiao is carefully observing every contestant's move. Due to the last preliminary selection, the reason for taking advantage of me, which made him prepare for this time. A battle royale with more diverse elements. Competition. Just want to eliminate those hunters who don't have comprehensive abilities. However, my actions were beyond everyone's expectations. At this moment, the 2 examiners were surprised to discover, among the many contestants, surprisingly, there is one person running straight towards the outside of the circle. To prevent accidents from happening, he instantly switched his perspective. But found? I unexpectedly found myself standing in front of the door of an ancient relic. Ilachio is very surprised, looking at the door. Pattern. This is exactly the place where the treasure of the Land of Lost Souls is hidden. But clearly, this is a dungeon. It has never been used in the program. How did he know about the ancient ruins? Because this relic is also part of the selected terrain, so Aliho could only happily accept. At this moment, Lee Mingxi on the side asked again, so what is the treasure hidden in the ancient ruins? Just saw Aliho's eyes suddenly become deep. That is something called ether. A powerful artifact that made the Hunters' Alliance stand still. The 2 people were instantly shocked upon hearing this. If you want to remove it, then we must pay the price of ending the game. Fortunately, this is just a virtual reality, unable to bring the artifact to the outside world. And artifacts of this level, there is usually a strong guardian for protection. Thinking of this, Arayo suddenly felt there was nothing to worry about. After all, a person who gets through the preliminary selection by cheating, how could possibly beat the Ethereum Guardian? I quickly entered the interior of the ancient ruins. Looking at the dazzling Rubik's Cube in front of me, I get help through a comprehensive view, successfully perceived and dodged his attack. And because of the last life, I once participated in the finals of the league, defeated the Guardian of the Ether. So about his weaknesses, I am clearer than anyone else. Then he used his skill to transform weapons, transformed into a crowbar. A gap interwoven at the connection of small squares, seized a piece of itself. The Rubik's Cube immediately begins to change shape after losing a piece, transformed into a pair of giant palms. And the key to defeating the Ethereum Guardian, it is to use the properties as strong as fragments and palms. Throw it into the soon-too-close palm. This way, it can achieve self-destruction without attacking. Then I arrived at the hiding place, obtained the long-unseen ether in front of the supreme treasure chest, and attached it to the weapon in one go. However, what surprised me was, I, who defeated the Ether Guardian. Unexpectedly, the blooming flower was regarded as a heroic act, thus rewarding a skill called Ether. The effect of the skill is, you can summon an Ether clone through mana. As long as you have this skill, I will be able to use firearms earlier in the competition. After all, the flower that blooms by itself has not yet been liberated. The mana is not enough to support the use of firearms, but with the help of Ether, the situation is different. However, at this time in the viewing room, the 3 people were dumbfounded. They can't believe it. I not only killed the Ether Guardian, Also apply ether to the pistol. Lee Mingxi has been dodging the Guardian's lasers since just now. It can be inferred that I should have some kind of the ability to predict the opponent's attack. What could make Alaho more concerned is, why can I know the method to defeat the Ether Guardian? Meanwhile, on the other side, I am walking out from the ruins, but I found out during the time I was away, 60 hunters have already been eliminated, and I at least have to eliminate all the remaining people. Only then can we strive for the first place throne. But this is clearly unrealistic, so I decided to put the goal in 5th place. Before this, I will try to eliminate as many people as possible. However, the first unlucky guy I encountered it turns out to be the senior of the prop that was previously beaten up by oneself. At this moment, he is ambushing the passing hunters in the bushes. Under the blessing of gravity skills, everything is going very smoothly. But he ignored me, who was coming from behind him. In the era of cold weapons, the only hot weapon, paired with the eye of power that can see everything. What kind of wall-hanging player will it ultimately create, even if surrounded by 4 hunters at the same time? In the case of, I can also calmly and easily break through the encirclement. Just after I quickly found the predecessor of the prop, he proposed a plan to him for cooperation in battle. Because, even in this battle royale mode test, there will still be quite a few players forming teams to hunt. And as a user of gravity-based superpowers, extreme speed is undoubtedly the best choice to assist oneself. After what happened last time, make my proposal very quickly. Mistakenly thought it was insulting him. He immediately attacked me with a backhand. Facing this situation, of course, I didn't hesitate to give him a good beating. However, he showed absolutely no sign of compromise and claimed that this will absolutely not help me do anything. Out of desperation, I had no choice but to pull out a gun. Deliberately fired a shot next to the speeding foot. Then he pointed the muzzle of the gun at his own head. Speak. That's like the hunter show you had a hard time participating in. Say goodbye. How my few words completely woke him up. After all, in the face of the future, we still have to put aside our grudges first. Then I quickly started looking for the target. After finding the prey, Jisuction first uses gravity control skills to control the 2 people, and I effortlessly collect the heads. But because the gunshot was too loud, soon it attracted uninvited guests. Good to use gravity quickly and in time. Prevented the opponent's sneak attack. When seeing the face of the person who came, I just realized, the person who attacks oneself. It turns out that Yi Hanli, who topped the list with 17 kills, and he also formed an alliance with 3 other people. In the last life, Yi Hanli can manipulate many swords through his skills, can be seen in this world. He has not yet developed this potential, can simultaneously wield a sword for combat. This is also the reason why I am confident that I can beat him. After successfully evading several attacks from Yi Hanli, his teammate can't sit still and takes the initiative. Take the sword and come stab me. But I easily dodged it and knocked the weapon out of his hand. Just like that, I took care of one of them first. Following closely, I quickly escaped behind a tree to dodge Yi Hanli's swordsmanship. With the help of a full view, the hiding places of the other party are completely exposed. Just quietly approach and strike first to break them down one by one. Until the end, only Yi Hanli was left. I am planning to attack him in the same way, but it did not work, because his swordsmanship is really too annoying. Actually able to withstand 2 handguns at the same time. The bullet that was fired, but in the next second, the moment the bullet was deflected by the sword, I seized the gap when he couldn't react. Utilized the full field of view. Fired another silent bullet once again. But just as the bullet was about to hit Yi Hanli, but was forcibly teleported back to reality due to the end of the game, caused oneself to miss the opportunity to defeat Yi Hanli and the remaining 20 contestants on the scene. Another round of competition will also take place next week. Next, we will announce the rankings of this competition. I am particularly nervous at this moment, staring carefully at the ranking chart on the screen. Yi Hanli undoubtedly topped the list, and Jisoo squeezed into 3rd place with Basha, until seeing that the 5th place is oneself. I've only just managed to breathe a sigh of relief. The props behind also came over at this time. He also did not unexpectedly survived in this competition. But what he found incredible was, I actually used a handgun in the competition and also won the 5th place. However, we haven't even spoken to sentences yet. Then I was pulled away by the program crew for an interview. When asked about the contestants in, is there a time when you are afraid of your own opponent? My answer is no. Although we lost the blessing of ether in the next competition, facing Yi Hanley again might be a bit challenging. But she won't say these things to the public herself. Then the other party asked again, then why did you only get 5th place? Regarding this, I can only say that if we take control from the beginning, then this game is no longer interesting. Such arrogant remarks left the interviewer stunned on the spot. Afterwards, I also had dinner with Daeojun at the restaurant. One can only say that the lengthy interview is like a torture. Another Daeojun, accompanied by a smiling face, also sighed, because they keep comparing Daeojun with Jisoo. This gives Daeojun a big headache. And when he was asked, when you think who will become the final winner, Daeojun's answer was either Yi Hanley or Yoo Hui-yu. Because whether in school or in competitions, these two people, they are all competitors at another level with oneself. I was very angry when I heard this. Is your level not as good as theirs? I strongly condemn his mentality. He should not give up before even trying. At this moment, a big hand interrupted my thoughts. I turned my head to look, but found out that the other party is Hanjing, who is ranked 4th, and ranked 1st, Yi Hanley. But I just met Hanjing. He just said a bunch of nonsense to me, until Yi Hanley dragged Hanjing away. However, I am also taking advantage of this opportunity. Used a full view to check the attributes of the two people. The results found, some of their attributes even exceed mine by more than double. It seems that the next round of competition will not be so easy. Can be in the following week. But I spend all day in the gym with Daeojun. Not for anything else. Just for leg training. Because I must in the next competition. Improve your mobility as a long-range shooter. If facing a highly mobile hunter like Yi Hanley. So avoiding his attacks is also my compulsory course. The man's weapons are clearly two pistols. The content that can be trained is swords, guns, sticks, and clubs. Just because it's common knowledge. Long-range archers will definitely be approached by opponents. So I don't shoot at the dummy in the shooting range, but instead came to practice with the swordsmanship genius. What the other party never expected was, I thought I was weak in close combat. He was easily defeated even though he had been practicing swordsmanship for over 10 years. The reason is not only the gap in strength between the two sides, even more because of the props. Did not choose a weapon suitable for oneself. Although I don't know him very well yet. But based on the situation of the practice just now, infrastructure, this is a more suitable choice for his explosive hunter type. But just as we were about to leave after our training, but was attracted by a coarse, sarcastic voice. Wait until I turn my head to look. Just discovered a man. They were actually watching the video of my practice match with Daeojun just now. And his mouth is full of contempt and disdain. This made me, who has always been arrogant, very upset, even when a request for a one-on-one challenge was proposed to him. And the other party also readily agreed. After all, he doesn't think so. I would lose to someone from a lower-level academy. Only after I observed for a while did I discover. What the other party said is not entirely unreasonable. I myself am Kim Jin-seong, who is ranked 5th alongside me. All attributes far exceed oneself. And through the whole oath, I also learned his skills. It is a telepathy of the mind that is similar to a Korean attribute, able to manipulate weapons for mid-range attacks. And within this spacious training field, to avoid being hit by the dagger controlled by the opponent, you can only choose the long sword that is both offensive and defensive. As a weapon, after the first attack failed, Jin Shang quickly pulled away and threw 2 daggers at me. This blow was easily blocked by me. Why did the other party reveal their conspiracy? Showing off expression. It was not until I turned my head that I realized. 2 daggers surprisingly appeared behind him, quickly rushed towards me. Although it was a close call, the attack was successfully fended off. But this also made me realize one must resolve the battle as soon as possible. For this, I will wield the long sword in my hand, transformed into a dagger identical to it, and threw it towards Jin Zhensheng. This made Jin Zhensheng very confused. You throw the dagger at me who is playing with the dagger. Are you afraid that my weapons are not enough? However, the result is also very obvious. He unconsciously blocked it with his telepathic senses. Little do they know that all of this is under my control. Then I pulled out 3 daggers again and proceeded to throw in sequence. Kim Jin-sung, who saw this scene, thought I was crazy. Even though they clearly know that I can use my mental telepathy to block the dagger, why does he still continue to throw daggers to attack? Until Jin Zhensheng follows the previous train of thought. Just realize that I can't control multiple daggers at the same time. Can only fix them one by one. However, it is this tiny time difference. But let every dagger behind be allowed. Everything is getting closer and closer to oneself. Until the last dagger. And I also follow this approach. Successfully defeated him. The facts show, even if there are differences in numerical values, can also use operations to make up for it. However, on the other side at this time, the guest examiner for this program is Lee Min-ho, painting with a man in a suit, and the scene of the actual combat just now. They also noticed all of these, as Lee Min-ho predicts the final winner of this program. The man curiously scrutinized me with analytical eyes, but I found that my value is very average, even worse than most of the contestants who didn't make the list, but I can use for daggers. It reversed the situation just now. This makes the man in the suit confident. I must possess some kind of skill to peek into others. The method. But the analysis can only analyze the other party's data. So he has no way of knowing the specific situation. But based on the performance just now, also fully reflects one's adaptability to the situation of the battle. Then he asked Lee Mingxi, has Changxin's team already made a decision? But his answer was very regrettable. Only the team sponsoring the program can obtain the priority to select contestants. This made the man in the suit very unwilling, thinking that I must find a way. We need to bring this guy in. The next day, I continued the previous training with Daojin. After following my advice, he changed his weapon to fencing. The result is not only that the swordsmanship has become sharper, even the self-confidence has skyrocketed. You actually think you can beat me with your current strength? As for this, I told him not to indulge in wishful thinking. Indeed, Dao Jun has become much stronger these days. It's still too early to think about defeating me. The 7-day training has finally ended. The remaining 20 contestants, everyone was brought into a classroom and walking from the door to the podium. They are the 3 examiners who are the invited guests. They are towards all the contestants on the scene. All have been affirmed, but at the same time, it also pointed out the huge gap between everyone and professional hunters. In order to make up for this as soon as possible, the production team specially invited 3 experienced individuals, participants of the First Division League. I would like to use this opportunity to provide guidance and evaluation for everyone. Just the moment of appearance, all the people present, then was enveloped in an invisible pressure. I quickly noticed someone has used magic manipulation. This is for shaping the image of a strict teacher. Indeed, it's a great help. What confuses me is why remote contestant was assigned to the close combat guidance class, and Li Chenzhen, the teacher of the close combat guidance class, also told the public about. If you really dislike arrogant students, then ... You almost said my full name out loud. However, there is still one point that is quite good. That is the person who was assigned to the close combat class together. Not only props, there are also Yi Hanli and Yu Huiyu, the legendary weapon that countless hunters dream of obtaining nowadays. But I was treated as a tool to please the union president, just because I am in the competition, displayed extraordinary talent, then suffered the scramble of multiple organizations, can face such tempting conditions in front of you. But I turned around without hesitation and refused. It turns out that after previously assigning their own tutors, we quickly followed the instructor and started training. And the content of the training is centered around aerial combat. Everyone must learn to grasp hooks and anchor points. These two skills. However, because everyone had not encountered aerial combat before, I have never used this skill before. So it leads to the majority of players being left hanging in the air, and was severely criticized by the mentor Li Chen. Even if it's a slightly talented prop, the performance in the air is also tiptoeing. For this reason, I gave him special instruction. Let him, before launching the grappling hook, calculate the required length of the rope in advance. This way, it won't be due to the length of the rope and cause the body to be unbalanced. Another point is the center of gravity of the body. You must always be in finding the state of the body's center of gravity. Speaking like this, I then performed a magnificent backflip. This is much easier than walking in the air using anchor points. After learning all of this, Daeojin launches the grappling hook again, preparing to ride. The second long. This time, he is even smoother than the first time, imitating me. Performed a somersault in the air before landing. Although his talent is indeed there, but I don't know who this arrogant character is directed at. He actually said he was a genius without any hesitation. Learned it just once. However, the noisy sound attracted dissatisfaction with the tutor. Also let Li Chenjin, who already hates himself, seized the opportunity. Even when asked why I don't train, does it mean you have great confidence in your own abilities? Facing this point, I also have no strength to refute. If that's the case, then you should prepare for the test. Meanwhile, on the other side, Li Mingxi was surprised to discover I should have been attacking from a distance, but appeared on the close combat training list. And all of this started with the first one. Turns out it's Alaragon who has long disliked me, because he wants to take this opportunity, polish my sharpness well. But will the result really be as he wishes? At this moment, the mentor Li Chenjin has already arranged the scene and call everyone to participate in the test evaluation score and the content of the test. Then it is to retrieve the hook log hanging at a height of 100 meters. Before the test, I also made a bet with Li Chenjin. He agreed. If I could successfully use the anchor to retrieve the hook log, you can do whatever you want in his class. But this is for those who have just started learning about anchor points. Undoubtedly, it's a huge challenge. Most of the contestants, he has not been able to achieve results that satisfy him. But what surprised him was, Yi Hanli actually used the sword to fly, reached a height of 100 meters. But unfortunately, the focus of this test is the use of anchor points, so the score given to him should not be very high. However, what Li Chenjin didn't expect was, I thought I would fail because of my arrogance. Unexpectedly became the most hopeful among them to retrieve the hook log. After a fierce bout of bouncing, I directly started wall walking on the eaves of the building. This disappoints Li Chenjin, who was skeptical of me from the start, full of shock on the face. Isn't he afraid that he might fall down? However, the main event is yet to come. Under the gaze of everyone, I actually fell from a height of 50 meters, a backflip rotating to a 90-degree wall surface, reusing anchor points as the pedal has achieved running on the wall, and smoothly retrieved the hook lock in one go. This superb air combat skill, even as a mentor, it's difficult for me to complete. Not to mention only studying anchor points for less than 2 hours. Even if Li Chenjin finds it hard to believe, but still gave a perfect score. And he fulfilled his promise. Let me do whatever I want in his classroom. But just at this moment. But I found out. Don't know who. Unexpectedly, a note was quietly slipped into my pocket. It is written above. Let me take a break to go to the training center in the backyard. They said they want to show me some interesting things. Regarding this, I came to the place he mentioned with skepticism and doubt, but didn't see anyone here. Until I look at my feet, surprisingly found a tiny crack on the ground. After careful exploration, also successfully opened the hidden door underground. After I entered the underground, but found that the person knocking on their own door and leaving notes. Turns out it's Li Jins, the chairman of the Hunters Association. Even though I am very clear about why he called me here, but still asked out of politeness. However, he is straightforward. Want me to join the Hunters Guild. Also leave behind the weapons and jewels. All revealed. claiming that as long as I agree, they can lend me one. Regarding this, I retorted, asking why it is borrowing instead of giving. But the president said, "The weapon's here, but all are priceless treasures of the world, even as the champion's reward from Mora's workshop. Weapons made also cannot be mentioned in the same breath with it. I am naturally very clear about this. After all, among this pile of weapons, I also saw the treasure sword used in my previous life. The feeling of cutting through iron like mud. Nothing can replace it. Although the conditions proposed by the union president are very tempting. But I still surprised him. Unexpectedly rejected this request. After all, those things in the end are just weapons. And the powerful one is the person who uses it." After I finished speaking, I left here without looking back.